Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila. Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. We have real people sharing real stories about how to reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your life on your terms this year. So now we have special guest, Vashali. She is the go-to expert for entrepreneurs and business owners who would like to see through the future, because in today's times, most are confused, panicked, and unsure. And that is definitely this year. We need as much vision and sight as we can get through our year. As a business psychic, she shows people how to outcome different decisions that will unfold in the future. The bottom line is you get to peak in the future by being in the present time. Vashali is the host of the podcast, The Uncanny Link, where physics meets metaphysics or science meets woo. She has also been a podcast guest on many other podcasts and now on the Sheila Mac Show. Welcome to the show, Vashali.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
Yes, happy to have you. So I would love to learn about your journey and what brought you to what you're doing now. As you know, my book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, The Formula to Go from Rock Bottom Back into Action in Any Situation, talks a lot about rebuilding, reinventing, and rebooting life on your terms. So did you have a time in your life where you hit a tough situation or made a huge transformation and reinvented your life?
I actually did. So this was, I think maybe sometime in the last 6 to 7 years, maybe a bit longer. And what happened is I was doing some work where I wasn't really happy. So this is when I used to be an engineer, and then I was doing some other work related to trading. And it wasn't so much fun. And I was unhappy. I knew I had to make a change. And I wasn't sure which way to go and what to do and what the future held for me. So I decided to get help. And the help I got was calling up psychics. So I said that, if the psychics can really see the future, then they should be able to tell me that what kind of a career will make me happy, will make me successful, and I should really get some guidance. So in my mind, it was a legit thing. So I called up one psychic, then slowly it started inching up to 2, then 5, then 10, then 15, 20, 30, 40. So somewhere around 30, 40 psychics is when I kind of stopped. And I said to myself that, oh my God, these people have absolutely no idea what they are talking about. I said, I need to figure this out myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out myself. And that's when I started learning how everything works in terms of the psychic world. Can psychics really predict the future? And being a student of science, I thought that, listen, if what they are saying is true, and if psychics can really predict the future, then I should be able to see maybe 3 months down the road, 6 months, 9 months. But I should also be able to see the reverse. I should be able to see 3 weeks and 3 days and the next day. So I said to myself that, listen, if I can predict what's going to happen in an hour, then it's worth looking into. Otherwise, it's of no use.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to go to the gym in the mornings, and I said, there is enough variety in what I do in the gym that I should be able to make that like an hourly prediction kind of a thing. So I decided to go ahead with that particular test. And let's just say that I started on a Monday. So before I would go to the gym, I would predict what's going to happen in the gym, because that was the premise, right? So I should be able to tell. So I would sit down, then I would write down my prediction. It was all very scientific. I would make a note of what's going to happen. Then I would go to the gym. I would forget about it, because by the time you enter the gym, everything is so noisy and there's machines and people and everything around. So I would completely forget about the prediction. I would go and do my thing, and then I would come back home. When I came back home, I would look at what played out in the gym versus what I had predicted. Wow. And I was a young, let's say I was a young psychic or younger psychic at the time, very naive, not knowing much. And even then, I could tell that the prediction was kind of on the spot, and it was showing me that this would happen, and this actually happened. So I said, that's interesting. Said, maybe it's just a fluke. Let's try day 2. So then Tuesday, I do the same thing. And the same thing happens. I come back and voila, same story. So then I said, oh, maybe 1 or 2 days it can happen. It's not going to happen all the time. So let's keep testing. Mm-hmm. So then I go on Wednesday, and it's the same thing. So on Wednesday, I kind of shifted myself a little bit. I'm like, how can this even be true? It's almost like I can see through what's going to happen. And if I can see through what's going to happen, then I should be able to change it. So I said, okay, let's try that approach. If I can see through what's going to happen, I'm going to change it. So then it was a Thursday. And I would have like a cardio day and also a weight training day. So Thursday was a cardio day. And I would either run or I would go on the Stairmaster. So I said that, listen, if the reading says that I go on the Stairmaster, then I'm going to run. And if the reading says that I'll run, then I'll go on the Stairmaster. So this way I'm right and the reading is wrong. I had to prove it wrong. So what the reading showed is that no matter what I did, I would be right, and the reading would also be right. Did you want to take a stab at what it showed?
Yes, interesting. Wow.
Do you want to take a guess, and I'll tell you what it actually showed?
It showed the outcome because maybe those machines were busy, so you ended up having to do what you predicted?
No, it said, I said that, if the reading showed that I would run, then I'm going to reverse it and do the Stairmaster. And if the reading said that I would do the Stairmaster, then I would do run. Okay. I would go and run.
So did it still come out correct?
It actually did. So what the reading showed is that there's a woman at crossroads, which means that no matter what I did, I would be right, and the reading would also be right. So that day, there was like a switch in my brain that flipped and said that, oh my God, this is actually true.
Mm.
So then I started looking into things, and I started testing a little bit more and a little bit more. And once I had enough confidence in what I could predict for myself, I started reading clients. And before I knew, I became a psychic.
How fun. That is
Yeah.
really interesting. I love that. And this year especially, people are wondering what the outcome is or what to do next. And like you said, you go to, your scientific things, and then you go to some fun things and get a reading or two. I know for me, this is really interesting. I've had lots of friends and people that are actually very well-known psychics that are just friends, and okay, I'm going to do a reading on you. And they all told me the same exact spot on thing consistently. And it was about 10 years before I really transitioned into doing the things I do now. And they were spot on. And I was wondering, how the heck am I going to get from what I'm doing as a parent of 6 children and everything else I was doing at the time to what they're saying, which is definitely in my heart. Yet, how does that happen? And things do tend to unfold in a beautiful way. I do believe that there is something to our energy into something. So somebody says, oh, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. It's kind of like, what do you think about that as far as, is it a warning? Can you switch things? It's not written in stone. What's your idea on that piece of it?
So, one thing about the readings is that when you get a reading, or when a reader or a psychic is actually giving a reading to you, what happens is they can actually see through what's going to happen and you cannot. So maybe it's difficult for you to be able to relate to the reading. So if I tell you, let's say that you came to me in March of 2020 or in February of 2020, and I would tell you that, hey, listen, after March, middle of March or something, you're not going to be driving to work. And you would say, what is she talking Well, I know what I'm talking about, but the thing is, there are so many circumstances behind a prediction. And when we do a short conversation or a short reading, you cannot get into each and every detail, but you can get into the crux of the matter, which is you're not going to be driving to work. So what happens is the reader is giving you the future tense and you are still in present tense. So it's very difficult to believe it, right?
Oh, I'm telling you, if anybody told me like 100% about 2020, I would have said, right, and Santa Claus is coming to town. I would have never believed this year. And I don't think anybody else would have. I had some people give me some predictions that were interesting, that I was moving and my family would be home with me and all my kids are in college and above. And I thought, my kids are so independent and they're in the dorms and they love what they do and they work and go to school. And I'd love, as a mom, I'd always love to have them home, but they're going to be home full time with me. Well, two of the younger ones actually are home with me now doing college because the dorms closed and the college is not open. And I was like, whoa, that was so spot on. And that I was going to have a pet. And, once my kids were grown and I figured I was going to be doing this speaking tour and travel tour with my new book, I thought, well, I don't think we're going to have it. There's not going to be a pet in this house. I'm not going to have time for a pet. Well, when my kids moved in, they're like, we have to have a puppy. We have to have pets because we're bored. And we love pets. We've always had pets, Mom. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And so now we have a puppy too. And that was not part of my plan or anything I could have imagined. Yet that prediction was given to me. And it was so spot on. I was like, I would love to have that. But how would that ever happen that what am I going to do? Drag my kids home and not let them go to school and have them just spend time with me? So here it is.
Yeah, so that's the thing, that it's very difficult to believe readings at times because, like I said, you are in present tense and the reading is in the future. So we cannot relate the circumstances. And this is the reason we can start asking more deeper and deeper questions. And then as we start going more deeper and deeper, we can sort of get an idea about the surroundings, about the circumstances. Like in your case, they were saying that, oh, the kids are going to be home. There's going to be a pet in your home. You're like, man, this is all really freaky.
I couldn't. That was like, I love that as a mom, not the pet part. I love the pet, but there's responsibilities that come with that pet, and mom always gets them anyway. And so that's one of those situations that's very interesting. I thought I was done with all that, but I love having my kids home, and I'm incredibly grateful for this time of universal pause this year. Do you have any thoughts or ideas for how people getting through this year, anything to help them as they're reinventing? You went from one career to another, and so when people have to do that, sometimes their hand is forced, but it's for the better, for the best, actually, because then they're actually going to be doing their talents. Do you have any ideas for the audience regarding these kind of transitions we're all experiencing this year?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is that we are all born psychic. So we all have these abilities, and it's just that we don't really use them. So just like how we have our 5 physical senses, we also have spiritual senses. And I talk about it in one of my podcast episodes called 5 Senses Are Not Enough. And you may have heard the name like clairvoyance or clairaudience or claircognizance. These are all the spiritual senses or abilities of the spirit, which is you can actually see through as a spirit, or as a spirit you can hear, or as a spirit you can know. So we all have these abilities. It's just a matter of having to develop them a little bit more so that we can get in touch with it. But I'm sure you've had some time in your life where you've had a vision of something, or maybe you just heard a soft whisper, or you just knew that this was going to happen, or you knew that, I have to do this kind of a thing. Those are all our spiritual abilities, and we can tap into that to a certain extent, and we can actually get the information. And then, like I have trained myself a lot over the years, so I can kind of go into deeper and finer things. And I wanted to address a part of the question you asked earlier, which is, can we change things? I think that was one of the questions you asked.
Right.
So the thing about changing is, the short answer is yes, we can definitely change things. But in order for us to be able to change things, we need to have awareness. And once we have awareness, we can change things. Like if I know that a certain thing is going to happen, then, I can switch or change things around. And I'll give you the example of a client I had. And this is a recent case, maybe in the last 3 to 6 months. And she came to me saying that she was going to put a bid on a contract, and the bid was going to be for $225,000. And she came to me and she said, I'm about to put this bid on the contract, and I'm not sure if it's the right bid. She said, I'm really nervous. So that was really her psychic senses telling her it wasn't the right bid. But that's not what she said. She said, oh, I'm really nervous. I'm not sure if this is the right bid. I don't want to lose the contract. Should I bid lower? I can go lower to 200, or should I bid higher? I don't want to leave money on the table. So she was a little bit messed up in terms of the dollar amount. So I looked at it psychically, and then I told her that, hey, listen, you can go up to 260, so 260,000, and still win the contract. So she went ahead and she put a bid of 260K, and then she actually ended up winning the contract. So that's an example of being able to change things. But in order to change things, you have to have a little bit of awareness.
Yes, that is so true and very helpful. I mean, when I purchased my newer home after losing one in 2017 to the fires, I actually had one of my friends help me with that, who does the psychic readings, and we chose a house, and there were 2 other houses, and it was really helpful. And I don't know, who knows, but for me it just felt guided and right. And there was also when I was making, now I have been doing investing in real estate for many years. I run an online course for agents. I know a lot about buying and selling property. That's something like back of my hand. Yet there was one house I bid on, and I thought it was right based on what mentally my friend and I were going to go into this business and do like a retreat spa kind of thing where you go and stay for 5 days and get all the treatments. And we figured we'll have all the treatments while we're there and live on the, and so I'm going to bid on this big thing. And I placed a bid, and then it was like, the feeling was, it doesn't feel right. Something isn't sitting right. And when I did the walkthrough, I ended up walking away from it, and everybody, my friend was kind of sad, but we didn't know that everything would be closed. If I had bought that, I would not be able to be in business this whole time, because this was about a year ago that I was looking and I'm offered on that property. And so I walked away, and it was really sad. And I said, I don't feel anything but peace. When I was able to get out of the contract, I said, I feel so peaceful, and I know the right thing will show up for me. And we ended up finding a beautiful place that has all those amenities. They have a country club, and they have all these things included that we don't have to run, and we can enjoy that part of what we want and still, not have to be responsible for running an entire business. That was an extra gig for both of us. So that works out.
Yeah, see, that's totally cool. You just showed how you kind of used your own psychic abilities, which is when you went into that property, even though everything was probably perfect, it didn't feel right, because you can't really change the feelings. You can change how the property looks. You can make it look nice. You can make it look shiny. But you cannot change what a person feels when they walk in the property. And your intuition just picked it up that it's not the right thing, and you walked away, which is what you should have done. And see, today you are happy. And that's the thing, that in present tense, it's difficult to explain, which is like it's trying to explain logically. And logically, you cannot explain, but intuitively, And that's what you just said, that I just knew it was the right decision.
Yes. And I find that many children, when you think of younger children, they are very connected because they don't know these grown-up rules about, oh, you can't have a feeling or an intuitive. I mean, most moms, we are intuitive. We just learn to be, we know, if something's not right aligned with one of those children, you have a feeling, I got to call and check on so-and-so, one of the kids. And it's like 99.9% right. So we all have it, yet our society, I think now, is being more open to that sixth sense that is talked about in many different spiritual practices as something that is real and exists, that we all have. But we're kind of taught, even at a young age, no, oh, that's just a coincidence. That's not really anything. And we're kind of taught to ignore those feelings or ideas that may come to us.
So, that's so true, because kids, they do not have any, I want to say, like, more of a knowing of the outer world. Mm-hmm. And when we are born with these abilities at a young age, the kids find it very real that they're playing with fairies and gypsies and whatnot. And they have all these abilities, but as soon as they step into the grown-up world, which is when they are more than 4 or 5 years old, is when they start stepping into a grown-up world. And, then they hear differently, they see differently, and everything looks different. So then, they just kind of lose those abilities, unless, of course, some people stay in touch with them. They are strong enough that they can say that, no, what I feel is right, kind of a thing. And then you can also learn, like I did, as you get older and you feel like you need to learn and develop these abilities. You can actually learn and develop these abilities.
Right. And I think that's the interesting thing. Now, as a child, did you have a lot of that then you went into, okay, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, what the world's telling me to do, whatever. And you kind of turned that off and had to, like, really re-engage what already was there? Or how did that work for you?
So as a child, I did want to be an engineer because I really loved math, and I still love math a lot. And I'm kind of trying to bring that a little bit in my readings. So that's why I do a lot of numbers, like the number thing I gave you with the 225K girl.
Yeah.
So as a child, I did want to be an engineer, but as soon as I was, I think maybe back around 2002, 3-ish, that's when I was attending conferences on astrology and stuff. And it was just as a hobby, I was doing it. And at that time, I asked one of the teachers, like what he saw me doing down the road, because something inside me, you can just call it my own psychic abilities, told me that I probably am going to change direction. And just like how I did in around 2014, I was asking him for help. Like, I asked him, so what exactly do you see me doing? He said, no, no, this is the right path. You're on the right path. But we know now that is no longer true. But yeah, I think we know intuitively, and it's just a matter of us getting in touch with it. And then as soon as you get in touch with it and you feel that there is enough movement or momentum, that's when we take off. But as a child, I never thought I would be a psychic. I mean, nobody gets up and says, today I'm going to be a psychic.
That's true. That's so true. So let me ask you, what type of readings do you do? Clairvoyant, clairaudient, numerology? What is your main focus when working with people?
Sure. So most of my readings are, I'll give you examples of 2, 3 different kinds.
Okay.
So when I first started out, like I was more experimenting, and I didn't know like I need to focus on a certain type or something. So I was doing each and every type of reading that you can imagine. It's like when a person starts a business, they do each and every aspect of the business, and later on they outsource, right?
Yes.
So I was doing each and every type of readings, but I saw that there was a pattern about people coming to me, and a lot of people were coming to me for relationship readings. And these people were single, and they were looking for their future girlfriend or future boyfriend. So I said, you know what, I'm going to develop a reading where I can give them a prediction and a description of their future girlfriend or boyfriend and how you'll meet them and so on. So I kind of developed that as a small package to sell to people who were looking. And then, I would do those readings for them. And I did a couple, and they came back and they said it actually happened.
Wow.
So then then I started doing more and more of them. And on one of my other websites, it's still one of my best-selling readings. And some of the clients who started with me at that time, around 2014-ish, they are still with me. And, by this time they have cycled through 2 or 3 different relationships. So I have ended up predicting all of their girlfriends and boyfriends. And just a small example. So one of the guys, he came to me, and he wanted to find out how he would meet her. So I told her that, he would meet her in a very small, confined, dark place, and very little lighting and very little room to move. And then he came back to me and he said, yeah, what you said was actually true. He said, I ended up meeting her in an elevator.
Wow.
So it was very small, confined, dark with dim lighting, and she was carrying books. That was one of the other things I had predicted. But then as I started graduating from these love readings, I started doing more of the business readings, which I showed you an example of the client. And I can also, one of the other readings that's more popular is looking at different options, like the example you gave about buying this piece of real estate versus that. So essentially, which option should I go with? Let's say that I want to create 100,000 by the end of the year, and I'm only at 60, and I want to create 40 more. And which method is going to work the best? And then if you have 5 different methods, then I can look into it and I can tell you, hey, listen, method 2 and method 3 can bring you like 30, 35K, and the rest are not going to fly so much. So then you know that you can just focus on those methods. So that one is very popular. And then I also do VIP days with clients where, we can sit and look at the future of a business, and we can just make small tweaks. It's just like the tweak you did for not buying that spa, or the tweak this client did for putting in a higher bid. So just little tweaks here and there, they make a big difference.
Yes. Well, that's incredible. Single people, are you listening? The relationship one. Wow. That would be interesting to know. And then for businesses, we're making those yes or no decisions, trying to figure out something. It's always fun to check in and figure out what options you have, or get some other perspectives that maybe you haven't considered before, because it does help. And then it's always, going with your guidance and that feeling you have, does this feel right? Because there are people, you want to work with somebody. If you have somebody experienced that has been doing readings for a long time, that has a good track record, like Vashali here, then that's going to make a big difference. You want to kind of do a little bit of research before you get a reading, and then that way you'll kind of know, because there are people that aren't quite as on the spot, or they're not quite there yet, or whatever. So that's something to consider. And it isn't written in stone, but it's just a fun thing to, when you're kind of on the fence and you're like, well, I can go this way or that way, and I have no idea what I don't know. So that is kind of a fun thing, and it really makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So interesting. And I know that, think about a time where you feel like, okay, don't go down that road, or don't do this, and you just have a feeling. And if you don't listen, it's not so good what happens. And when you do listen, then you're like, okay, this works out. And I remember years ago for myself, I had a situation where it was this huge earthquake it was the Northridge quake in California.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was married, and and we had gift stores. So anything that was broken, damaged, a little chip, whatever, would go to the swap meet once a month. And so my ex would actually load this truck full of all the merchandise, or maybe the merchandise just wasn't selling. And in that section, it was like a 5,000 square foot store. So he spends the whole day loading this truck up to go sell at the swap meet, just to get it out of the way. And I wake up earlier than usual. I think it was like 3 a.m. or something. And I said no, because I think he had to leave by 4 or 5 to get to the swap meet, because it was one of these early morning things.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, you can't go. I have a really bad feeling. You cannot go. I will not let you go. And he would have been on the freeway that collapsed.
Oh my God.
Yes. And he was like, whoa, well, if ever you have a feeling, you just let me know. Because we had a fight, like a big blown out fight. Like, what do you mean I can't? You know how many hours I loaded this truck and I bought the ticket? It's like, I don't know what it was, $40, $50, all this. And I said, I don't care. You're not going. And then in the middle of us still fighting, we were still fighting, the earthquake hit. And it was like, okay, you're right. And it was that women's intuition,
Mm-hmm.
Had children, mother's intuition, where I was like, you cannot go, because it is not going to be good. And I had no idea what it was. I didn't know it was going to be an earthquake. There was just something.
Yeah.
So it does. And if you think back in your life, if you're listening in, there's always that time where, oh, I shouldn't go to that party maybe, or I shouldn't, whatever it is. And or sometimes something happens that's, oh, you think, oh, that was a terrible thing. I was late. I was delayed. And then you drive out and you realize you missed a terrible accident because you were protected or guided or something. It was a gift. And sometimes we don't see it as a gift. So this year, think about how the reroutes and the different ways things are showing up may have been a gift in a way that, could have protected us from something else, or just bringing our families home together, changing the way we connect and do work. that is the gift. And I think when you find the gift, it just, all the problems dissolve. Like the minute that earthquake hit, we did not fight anymore about that earthquake or the fact that I was wrong. So that does happen, and things change. So it's in gratitude that I say, find the gratitude and the gift in everything. Yes. So let me ask you, so you're still doing the engineering at all, or do numbers play a role in the way you're doing your readings, or?
So I'm not doing the engineering at this time, and I kind of use numbers for timing and for determining the bids on the contract. Like, let's say if you're in real estate and you wanted to buy this house, and let's say the house is on the market for $2 million or $1 million, let's say, and you're debating, should I not, kind of a thing. So it's something that, in terms of numbers, I can look into it and I can say, you can bid maybe 15% lower and still get it.
Yes.
So that's how much? That's a lot. That's 150,000.
Exactly. That's totally worth a reading. And it does really help. I actually did have help with that.
Okay.
I was making my bids, and I'm really good at bidding anyway, because I've been in the industry for so long. Yet I was like, well, just let me know. And it was, I don't know, 10 or 12,000 less that my friend had said, yeah, bid this, and they accepted it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I wouldn't have done it. I don't want to insult them, but they needed to move, and it worked out, and we're actually friends now. So
yeah, it's all about timing, and what is your situation and what is the situation of the other person and what is the situation of the money involved in between. And if you can tweak it a little bit, then why not get help?
Yes, it makes a huge difference. That is incredible. Do you have any other stories of ways that maybe you worked with a client this year that had a situation with the COVID surprise that we've all had, and how maybe you helped them to get back on track?
So I can give you another situation. This is about a client that has been with me for maybe since I started, around the time I started. She's been with me since then. And she has some legal situations and legal cases going on. And one of the cases that she had to pay somebody $50,000. And she came to me. So now she's more like a friend. So she's still a client, but she's more like a friend because I've kind of seen her change and evolve over the last 6 years. And she said, 50 is like so high. She said, I really can't afford these payments, and it's going to put her in a bind for a long time. So she was like, so what is like the lowest I can bid, because I really want to kind of go lower. So then again, I looked at it and I said, you could go around 30-ish and it will still go through. And I told her, like, what she would need to do in order to get to 30. And in this particular case, I think it was like a couple things. And then also she had to wait a little bit. And at that time, she was like, oh my God, I cannot really wait that long. So I said, listen, if you wanted to go to 30, then that's what you have to do. I said, you asked me what you have to do. That's what you have to do. So, and I'm not sure exactly how it happened, whether she waited or the case got delayed or things just slowed down a little bit. She came back to me recently and she said, oh my God, they actually accepted it at 30. She said, now, can we go to like 20 or 25?
That's right.
Yeah. So that's like one of the other entrepreneurial story. I mean,
beautiful. Yes, that does make a difference, and how fun that is just to kind of check in sometimes and get a different perspective. I feel like even if you're kind of an intuitive person, at least for me, I am a little bit in tuned, and when I need to know something about myself or maybe my children, and I need some guidance, I'm looking at it from my perspective, with my emotions, with my beliefs, with everything in my life. And so I'm so close to myself or my loved ones that I can't see as well for myself.
Yeah. It's almost like sitting under a tree, and because you're sitting under a tree, you don't really know what's happening outside because it's all happening, but you're still kind of sitting under it. So you kind of need to get out there and look at it from outside.
Right.
So
Right.
also, like when you are involved yourself, there's a lot of emotions involved. So this was one of the bigger problems I had when I got started. Like if something bad was going to happen, the reading doesn't spare anyone. It just shows it as it is.
Yes.
And so if something bad is going to happen, then the reading will also show that. So the good thing about it is that, once you know it's going to happen, then you can take steps and correct it. So it's more like course correction kind of a thing.
Right.
And I kind of lost my train of thought of where I was going.
I think it's true though that it's something like just to have that perspective from another angle where we're not so connected. Like,
yeah. So it's more neutral. So like for instance, when everyone comes to me, because I don't have any relationship with them in terms of what's going to happen, whether or not it happens, I'm neutral and very unbiased, and I just blurt it out as I get it without sometimes a little. I want to say sometimes when people read with me the first time, they may be a little offended because they may think I'm a little direct. But the folks who actually have been coming to me for a long time, they actually want that information, and they are actually looking for someone to really tell them the truth. And some people are just looking for somebody to just make them happy or tell me what I want to hear kind of a thing. So I don't really do those kind of things. I just tell it as I see it, because that same teacher, so I actually worked with a teacher by email, and he helped me refine my accuracy in terms of my readings. He told me that no matter what the person in front of you says, just stick to what you see, because you'll never go wrong. And I have stuck to that, and it has helped me a lot.
Makes all the difference. Well, we are coming to the end of our interview time, so I'd love for you to share how our listeners can connect with you.
Sure. So I have a podcast. It's called The Uncanny Link, and you can check it out at theuncannylink.com. And I also have a small freebie over there, which is called the Creativity Quiz. And essentially what it does is it kind of imaginary scenarios, but they're actually real life scenarios and how you would make decisions. So it checks out what your creativity is. And then for the love readings, the website is actually my name. So it's just my first name, last name.com. And if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about your future love, then you can go on that particular site. I also have a freebie in there where you get the description of your future girlfriend or boyfriend if you sign in for the freebie.
Wow, that sounds interesting. I can't wait to sign up. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
In the fall of 1991, Heather Garden, an athletic 27-year-old, experienced a strange sensation in her leg.
There was periods of times when I couldn't physically move myself.
Heather was diagnosed with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis. The medical system has no cure.
It was living this life of acceptance and resign yourself to the fact that, you have this disease and it's going to get worse.
Heather believes she was able to do something the medical system couldn't: cure herself.
All right, time to go to work. Stop and get this teeth sharpened.
In the fall of 1991, Heather Garden, an athletic 27-year-old, experienced a strange sensation in her leg.
There was periods of times when I couldn't physically move myself.
Heather was diagnosed with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis. The medical system has no cure.
It was living this life of acceptance and resign yourself to the fact that, you know, you have this disease and it's going to get worse.
Heather believes she was able to do something the medical system couldn't: cure herself.
All right, time to go to work. Stop and get this gate sharpened.
If you're just tuning in, welcome back to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you rebuild, reinvent, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and we are here today on NBC's KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. So I wanted to share with you that on November 16th, that is a Monday, November 16th, I will be having special guest Judith Morrow, who is the author of The Healing of Heather Garden. The Healing of Heather Garden is an award-winning... If you are just tuning in, this is the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you rebuild, reinvent, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and we are here today on NBC's KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. Today, we are focusing on wellness practices as the second part of this show. And I would love to share with you a very special guest that will be appearing on the show on November 16th. That is a Monday, November 16th, and she will be on my feature show between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock p.m. So it'll start at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 2 Central, and 3 Eastern time. And her name is Judith Morrow. She wrote a documentary film called The Healing of Heather Garden, and it is an incredible film of hope, inspiration, and shares a real life story of a lady named Heather Garden and her journey back to healing. She was diagnosed with MS, and the doctors kind of gave up on her. She wasn't even able to walk. And she took a journey of her own healing process and got back on track. So I think it is a very important movie to watch and enjoy during this year with all the different things that we are healing from as we get back on track. I want you to take a listen now to a little trailer that shares a little bit more about the movie. Okay, take a listen.
In the fall of 1991, Heather Garden, an athletic 27-year-old, experienced a strange sensation in her leg.
There was periods of times when I couldn't physically move myself.
Heather was diagnosed with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis. The medical system has no cure.
It was living this life of acceptance and resign yourself to the fact that, you know, you have this disease and it's going to get worse.
Heather believes she was able to do something the medical system couldn't: cure herself.
All right, time to go to work. Stop and get this gate sharpened.
So that was just a little preview of The Healing of Heather Garden by Judith Morrow. And again, Judith will be my special guest on the show on the afternoon feature hour, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 2 Central, 3 Eastern, on the Sheila Mack Show, right here on NBC's KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And she will be our special guest on Monday, November 16th. So I hope you have time to tune in to that show and keep listening to the daily morning commute show. So for now, I would like to continue to discuss wellness a little bit more by sharing a brief portion of my wellness chapter from my book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. All right, take a listen. Okay, here we go from my bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation, wellness and lifestyle design. Applying the Boots formula to lifestyle design. Using the Boots formula, you can go from being stuck, saying yes to everyone, to becoming the woman you want to be. Being. Designing your life starts with the first step. Who are you being? That is going to be different for everybody. And once you've done some assessments to find your temperament, talents, and truth, you can look at how you are different from anybody else. Who are you going to be when you show up now? Who do you need to be to truly be the best version of yourself? How are you going to live your essence and truth? You may have a whole life set up around something that is not true to who you are. Now that you are redesigning your life, whether this is your difficult situation or you're doing so after making it through another rock bottom situation, the gift is being able to set a new foundation, but that means knowing who you're going to be. Orientation. With this orientation, you need to say, this is where I am, and this is what I want. What do you want your life to look like in a year? What do you want it to look like in 5 years? Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they underestimate what can be done in 5 years. This is a complete lifestyle redesign. You're not just switching one thing or dealing with one emergency situation. You're reconfiguring every system in your life. Order of operations. The first step in the order of operations is to figure out your first priority. If you could just do one thing today that would make everything else easier and make you feel really happy, what would that be? Giving yourself the time you need to think about and do this one thing will make you feel like you took care of yourself, and your whole day will be better. Give yourself those little things, and they might be different each day. They build up, and when you consistently do the first thing you added, you can then add more things, and those build up too. Take it in order of priority. You may need to adjust your relationship or get out of a career that doesn't serve you. That takes time. You're not going to make this choice and then be in the exact life you desire the next day. There are steps in between. If you're not good at the steps, you may want to have somebody help you through that. You may be really great at seeing the vision, but you're not sure how to unravel all those pieces. Or you may be able to see little pieces, but you're not quite clear on the vision. You may need to give yourself a little bit more time than you think. If you make a 1-year plan and a 5-year plan, it may feel like nothing is changing at first. It's subtle. But once you start building, you get to a point where it gets easy. And the fact that you're not waiting to live your life on your terms is so beautiful and freeing and such a wonderful gift to yourself that you won't care if it does take 5 years to get the whole vision of what you want because you're already living it now. You're not giving that happiness to any other person, situation, or thing. It could be that you're in your career still, and you're going to switch over slowly. But how can you incorporate your true essence, talents, and truth in what you're doing today? Can you volunteer or start a side business so that you're actually having that happiness and fulfillment now instead of waiting for a future perfect moment in time? Thinking. Thinking is your mindset. It's setting your intention, and with that comes gratitude. If you're starting over and rebuilding, but your budget doesn't allow for the fancy house or new car that you want, Or if you can't start your desired career tomorrow, how can you adjust your mindset and be grateful for what you do have? How can your way of thinking guide you to enjoy where you are now? Your environment matters. Not just the furniture and the decorations, but the energy that fills it. The energy, positive or negative, comes from the people around you, how the objects you surround yourself with make you feel, and the words and images you expose yourself to on the radio, television, and internet. How are you setting up your home? How are you setting up your environment? If you have stress in your office or home, what can you do to shift away from that negative energy? I went to the nail salon, and the news was blaring on the TV, full of war and death and horrible things. I don't want to be bombarded by that negative energy when I'm trying to relax. I know these things happen. I read the news and keep up with current events. But when I'm trying to rejuvenate and take care of myself, I don't want to see those vivid pictures that leave me feeling drained. I have friends, though, who love the news and can't work without it on. Where can you create a sanctuary in your home? Sometimes just removing the television from your bedroom switches the whole energy. It could be as simple as moving things around to create a sacred space in your house where you can have that thinking time to draw, journal, or write your life vision. You can design an intentional lifestyle that supports your individual rhythms. Once you see it and think it, start acting as if you already have it. You're going to live your best life today in gratitude. You're going to stop waiting to live. As you design your life, you're already in a better mindset. Stepping up. Stepping up is your action step. You are redesigning your life, so you're going to be different. Maybe you recreate your image and go get a haircut, color your hair, or change the way you dress. Maybe you redecorate your house or office. Maybe you are still working at your old career, but you start doing volunteer work related to your passion. Whatever it is, just show up and do it. No waiting. Start small, but step into that new thing.
Again, this is the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest, and I'm giving you some homework. Grab a copy of my latest book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. That's right. If life has knocked you down, get ready to pick yourself back up and give your problems the boot. I look forward to hear about your read, and we'll see you next time. You may get a copy of Bootstraps and Bra Straps on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle, as well as at www.sheilamac.com. As always, I wish you life, love, laughter, and light.